Om Shri Ganeshaya Namo Nama. Greetings to everyone world over, all our brothers and sisters across the globe. You know, every Sunday we organize a special program for you with the help of non-resident Indian diaspora, our brothers and sisters, those who have gone abroad to the different countries. But unfortunately, due to the technical glitches, we could not hold program yesterday. So instead of yesterday, we are taking on the program today, what was scheduled yesterday. But the delay is totally beyond our efforts because we tried our level best that somehow we should reach out. Today is the very important, the area, and the first lady to join this evening on Monday is Madam Vidhi Jaiswal. We extend her a very warm welcome. Thank you for joining us the first. And then, of course, all other participants, those are joining, we extend them a very warm welcome. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are carrying out a series nowadays with you, a special series for all of you. Mohit Chaudhary ji, hearty welcome. Green evening to everyone. Yes, he is reminding me that I used to say green morning, green afternoon, green evening. Yes, he has told, so I take it on. Kim Kepken, hearty welcome to you. Thank you. Now, we are doing a special series where NRIs can be partner in empowering Indian education system, ecosystem, and at the same time, education, skills, competencies, capabilities, knowledge, wisdom, intelligence, all that can be put together. The basic question comes to our mind: why education? Why skills? What is the purpose of education? And once we take education, are we passionate to become teachers? The most noble profession in the world is basically that is becoming a teacher, teaching faculty. Julie Super ma'am, hearty welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining us. And all other dignitaries, those are joining us on YouTube channel, hearty welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining. Today we are going to have very short, crisp and to the point, half an hour deliberations. And the good news is that whatever your questions would be, depending on that, whatever you will be asking on YouTube today, if we feel there is a necessity, we will have a program for you tomorrow also. Our basic objective is India has advantage of manpower. India today, when you see the demographics, India has an advantage if you have skilled manpower, if you have skilled teachers. And we are talking over here is how to prepare global multitasking teachers. That means you are not to teach only one subject, specific. You are good at mathematics, physics, chemistry, bio, history, geography, whatever is there, or even computer sciences. But the efforts over here are, if you are a good teacher, if you're passionate to become educator and teacher, and you are interested to go abroad, how you can be multitasking. Dr. PRIYA VISWESWARAN ma'am, our eminent distinguished guest this morning from America, this afternoon from Europe, and this evening in India, is going to discuss with us what could be the new openings and avenues where it is not only education alone. Madam had been talking, we need neuro coach, we need multitasking mentors, we need, the life coach. And at the same time, as the population is aging world over, what could be other avenues open for Indian youth where they can go and they can take on the responsibility. So hearty welcome, along with all the dignitaries, those are joining on the YouTube. We extend a very warm welcome to Madam. And let me share quickly few slides with you. International Chamber for Service Industry extends a very warm welcome to all of you. You all recall during the pandemic, thick of pandemic, in the middle of the pandemic, from the beginning till end of the pandemic, we have done 1,600 webinars and all dedicated to education. And our title was Making Education and Skills Relevant, Teachers and Youth Empowerment. So right from 25th March 2020 onward, we have come a long way. Now, making education and skills relevant, when we talk about preparing global teachers, let's look at sustainable development goals also. There are 17 sustainable development goals given by United Nations. We will have some rundown because of the pandemic, 2 years. We may not be able to achieve 100% by 2030. However, education, when we talk about what kind of an education, what should be the packaging of education, what all it should comprise of, would it hold good by the time the children will pass out from schools and colleges, or would it become obsolete or obsolescent as far as academics are concerned? But your skills, your competencies, your capabilities, your knowledge, your wisdom, that will carry forward. And there can be a recall value. And that's why now lifelong learning. Can we take on project-based learning? Can we have real world problems? Whatever is going on world over, students should tackle those problems, take that into consideration. It should be in that context where day to day our living and life and happiness is being taken a part of it. Learning through nature, water management, waste to resource management, climate change, carbon neutral, understanding cultural diversity, immersive learning experiences, all that when you talk about like G20, we have got E20 for all of you. Yeah, Vamuzo, Vero, student queries, the complete group, Dilshan Wafa, all the dignitaries, Rishi Mohan, great welcome. Thank you very much. All those are joining over here on the YouTube channel. We extend a very warm welcome. Nowadays, we are also covering with you our book, which we have just come out with. We have authored from the JIPMER, Rethinking Tourism Post-Pandemic. Well, we'll try and see if tomorrow we are with Dr. Priya ma'am, then we will take on the next topic on, Wednesday. Welcome to ICSI web portal. If you see the homepage, and if you go on icsiindia.in, right on the homepage, opening itself, if you just download, you can take the complete print of our Rethinking Tourism PDF form, which you can utilize. Those of us, those are in vocational education, you can make optimum use of this ebook. Let's come forward. This is what we propose, but we will see. Whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Let's come together. Let's make our education and skills relevant. And this is the program which is going live on the YouTube channel, ICSI India. Please subscribe it, press the bell icon, like it, share it, comment. And we would love to read your comments. If you've got any questions to ask from Dr. Priya ma'am, I would certainly take on last 3 to 4 minutes. We'll keep it for that. So, preparing global multitasking teachers. And today we come to part 3. And with this, we extend a very warm welcome. Join me in extending all the warmth to Dr. Priya Visweswaran ma'am. Hearty welcome, ma'am. Great morning and a green morning to you all the way in the United States.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gulshan Sharma ji. I really appreciate your kind words and warm welcome. And it's so good to see your audience, and a hearty good evening and green evening to you and to Chitra ji and to the audience. I'm very, very grateful and blessed to be here, and just so happy to connect with you and with your tribe. Thank you so much for having me. Now, I will just, I would like to start where I think we're talking about multitasking teachers here, and, basically how teachers, especially during the pandemic, with the challenges of the pandemic, they have become multitasking geniuses. So I'm just going to show this as a slideshow. Hopefully we will, this will work. Slideshow.
Please go ahead, ma'am. It's there.
Yeah, thank you. So you may be familiar with pictures like this, and they are actually very similar to the representations of Indian gods and goddesses with multiple arms doing multiple different things. So it's very interesting that multitasking teachers are represented like multitasking gods and goddesses. And just one second, I'm trying to advance the slide. Sometimes it doesn't easily move forward.
Take your time, take your time. Ladies and gentlemen, you all will appreciate that during the pandemic, thick of the pandemic, doctors, nurses, paramedical people, they are the great warriors, but at the same time, our teachers, our principals, our academicians, our counselors, our mentors, our coach, our technical expert people, all of them, they have worked very, very hard. So
absolutely.
Here goes Dr. Priya ma'am.
Yes. So what I wanted to show you was, if I could advance the slides, I'm sorry, maybe I should, I'm just trying to see if I can give you the control and see if we can advance the slides here. No, I don't think probably that this is, for some reason, it has gotten stuck. Just 1 second. I'm going to...
You can close it and open it again, ma'am.
Yes, this is what I'm trying to do now.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to come out of this. Just a second. See, all of this requires technical knowledge, you know, and there are so many windows that are open. This computer is a workstation, so it can have, oh, here we go. Thank God. I think I won't do the slideshow. So this has been a few times that this has happened. We will just look at it like this, if you don't mind.
Sure, please go ahead.
So,
please go.
yeah, thank you. So during the pandemic, and even before that, many teachers have considered leaving the profession for these reasons. Here in the US and in other countries, advanced countries, or whatever you want to call them, inadequate pay benefits 22%, stress, pressure, burnout 19%, lack of respect or feeling valued 10%, student behavior 9%, school or administrative board 7%, workload or hours 6%, retirement age 5%, being low actually, lack of support 4%, teaching is no longer enjoyable for some of them, very small percentage. Most people who are in the profession enjoy and love teaching. Paperwork, poor work conditions, family obligations, and other things. Yes? So what people found in the United Kingdom was a little teacher appreciation during the pandemic went a long way. And because 52% of all teachers and 50% of all education professionals felt their mental health and well-being declined either considerably or a little during the pandemic. 58% of education professionals who needed support during the pandemic turned first to their family and friends. And had this appreciation numbers been more, these numbers could have been less. So 61% of all educational professionals felt greatly appreciated or somewhat appreciated by the parents, guardians of their pupils and students. 25% of all educational professionals felt greatly or somewhat appreciated by the general public. 15% felt greatly or somewhat appreciated by the UK government. 12% felt greatly or somewhat appreciated by general media. 18% felt appreciated by their education departments. Now, what I'm trying to say here is a little appreciation goes a long way during a challenging time like COVID. And several of these teachers, their mindset and their framework towards teaching, particularly if they've been experienced teachers who've had 30 years of experience, 20 years of experience, suddenly now their skill set had to expand like a jack in the box. They had to suddenly grow all these skills of tech, understanding technology, turning on a computer, having a Zoom call, making sure the students are attentive on a Zoom call, checking whether they are following and whether they can see what the teachers are showing. So their skill set suddenly had to go up. Then they had all the failures of technology, whether the Zoom call didn't work or something else didn't work. Maybe they didn't have power in some places of some parts of the world, or if they had power, maybe the Zoom call crashed when a certain amount of memory was reached. There were so many tech challenges that came up. Some people didn't have access to Zoom. Other countries that don't use US-based software. So there's a lot of technological challenges that came up during the pandemic. They had to learn all that and get on top of all that in order to cover the curriculum that was assigned to them during this period. In addition to that, once the classes resumed in person, which for most parts of the world, once the vaccines were announced and even before that, classes opened up in person, like in the fall of 2020 in many cities here in America. And there, the students were having psychological problems. The teachers were having major problems. So many of the teachers were reporting anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. And this post-traumatic stress disorder comes from the trauma of facing such a huge, unpredictable, chaotic, chaos-inducing event that has disrupted their family, their professional lives, their collegial relationships, and the entire country's positive outlook, you know. And here, of course, even by race, surprisingly, you can see white teachers found a much more, it's not that surprising, I would say. African-American teachers are used to more disruption and more stresses and challenges on a daily basis, even before the pandemic. So for the white teachers, this was much more stressful, and it really impacted how many of them are going to remain in the profession. This was a study done by a rural education Stanford University program called REAP in China, studying their rural teachers and how this EdTech usage impacted their function during the pandemic. They surveyed 4,000 primary school students, parents, and teachers, and they found that 86% of rural children were engaged in some form of distance learning. 75% engaged through mobile phones. Can you imagine? 75% of rural children were learning, taking their lessons on their phones. 1 out of 7 children were not engaged in distance learning, which means they were not getting any education during the pandemic. We're talking about China now. Teacher-student interactions were sporadic. 1 out of 5 students had no interaction with teachers. 1 out of 5 students interacted only less than 10 minutes per day. That means they only attended 10 minutes of class in a day. Maybe their cell phone was not working. Maybe they had other issues. Maybe, you know, they didn't have food, whatever it was that was going on in their lives at the time. And only 1 in 5 got the full more than 60 minutes per day. That means 80% of rural students, even with cell phones, were not getting their education during the pandemic. Remote instruction during COVID-19 was not cheap for parents. 31% of families said having children at home studying prevented them from going out to work. Yes, when you have a young child at home studying, one parent has to stay home to take care of them, right? So schools are not only where pupils and students get taught, they're also childcare institutions. And 31, that is 1/3 of the families had to basically lose one of the workers. Both father and mother are working. It's a rural establishment. So both have to work to earn enough to put food on the table. 1/3 of them couldn't have one of the parents work. Parents had to spend more time helping the children with homework, 38 minutes a day. 79% of families said COVID-19 had a negative impact on their child's studies. Learning subjects of math and Chinese language suffered the least, whereas English and science suffered the most. This is a study in China. Now, let's look at why teachers in a state like Oklahoma here in the United States would consider quitting. This was actually before the pandemic. And you can see that one of the most important things for a teacher, other than pay and better opportunities, not being able to hire, moving states, they move because their husband or wife moves, and other personal reasons, one of the most important things is respect. One of the most important things for a teacher to love and continue loving the profession is feeling respected and feeling loved, appreciated. And this was the reason for several of them quitting or considering quitting the profession. Let's look at teachers in Spain during the pandemic. Teaching profession brought additional stress due to excess workloads, interpersonal communication problems, insufficient training, and job insecurity, right? Many teachers had to leave because of stress, anxiety, and depression. Maybe they lost a family member. Maybe they lost a student to COVID. Maybe they lost a student's parent to COVID. And this caused the trauma in the teacher, right? Psychological symptomatology has been studied. This is also outside of COVID. You can see the dates on these studies. And these stressors have a consequences on the health of the teachers and can increase sick leave, absenteeism, and poor work performance. Okay, and here it is during the pandemic. Okay, teacher-student relationships are stressors for the student, and the teacher's behavior predicts the emotional well-being and commitment of the student. These are important factors for reducing their stress levels. What happens if the teacher gives up? Oh, this computer is never going to work. I'm never going to get this software like Zoom to work for these remote things. I can't get somebody to help me. There's nobody to troubleshoot the problem. Every day I'm having a problem. It's the 10th day. Guess what? We're not going to have lessons. So then what happens to the student? They're not getting the curriculum. 80% of the students you saw, they openly said they didn't cover the curriculum for the year. So coaching using EdTech in Canada, what are the conversations there, right? During COVID, what happened? There was, teachers had to expand their digital proficiency and they had to deepen their digital proficiency, but there was less evidence of discussion about the risks involving in taking a sharp digital turn. The standout exception was the concern about the harm incurred by excess screen time among children, because screen time doubled and even tripled in children during COVID. Now, it happened also for the teachers, right? Before COVID, 76% of preschoolers were already exceeding the American Academy of Pediatrics and Canadian Pediatric Association recommended maximum of 1 hour daily on screens. They were spending, during the pandemic, children 5 to 11 were spending 5 hours a day on screens in ways that experts declare were inflicting harm on their mental, emotional, physical, and social health. So digital proficiency must incorporate a self-reflective and critical approach towards areas of considerable risk on the part of students and their teachers alike. These are not restricted to excess screen time, digital addiction, digital perfectionism amongst adolescent girls who had to work to enhance their online images, and ways in which algorithms reinforce customer preferences, threaten democracy and diversity by amplifying prejudices and conspiracy theories. All of this exponentially increased during COVID because of the expansion of the use of digital technology to deliver education. Have you ever heard of something called dopamine detox in relation to digitech and education? So before COVID, they interviewed 222 Ontario educators on implementation of changes, including digitally related innovations. There were great enthusiasm, but parallel concerns about premature introduction of very young children to screen-based activities, negative impact of increasing online environment to adolescents' mental health, rushed and chaotic introductions of digital tablet, and tendency to equate deep learning skill of digital innovation, which was meant to stimulate with skills in using digital technologies. That is, you have one thing called deep learning skills, and you're using digital technology to deliver the ability to do deep learning. And then you have one thing called exceptional digital skills themselves, just knowing how to create a nice presentation, a report that looks really good that you submit for homework. And people, how do you distinguish between a child that knows to cut and paste and make a really good looking report and a child that has actually studied and understood the assignment and may not create a fabulous report, but has actually done the work of understanding in-depth learning skill, isn't it? So, there are so many confusions here. I'll come to digital detox in just a minute. After complaining about the impact on her children of junk tech packed with digital snacks that require no cognitive effort, including insatiable checking for likes, comments, and forms of approval that make us hungry for further validation, journalist Brenda Parmar argued that every school should have a tech officer who focuses not just on how teacher might misuse technology, children might misuse technology technology, but also on the deliberately addictive designs that are incorporated into the technology. Why? This was something that Apple did very long time ago, 30 years ago, right? They made their technology very addictive to use by school students, easy and very, very, user pleasing. So most of the schools in America have Apple computers. Why? Because they made it attractive for young children. So young children, once they get used to Apple, then throughout their lives, they're using the same computer. So what is a digital snack? It's just, go in there and see how many of your classmates like your homework. And then you go in there and you like some classmates' homework, you don't like some classmates' homework, who all liked my last homework, who all like me. This kind of thing, this is what is called dopamine addiction. So it's a part of the brain that releases dopamine when you get a public like or a public praise. And in digital technology, one of the ways of engagement is by involving people in public likes and public praise. So in fact, without that, neither education of children nor education of adults using digital technology can work. That is one of the core components of the tripod of using digital ed technology, isn't it? So one of them is, the other pillar is having the teacher deliver the lessons live as opposed to recorded lessons. The second one is giving the students homework and having an online class discussion, and then encouraging the students to submit the homework publicly online, and each student reads the other students, and then they like and dislike, and then the teacher is reading everybody's homework. So these are the three pillars of delivering digital education at an adult technology level. And people are getting addicted to likes. If adults can get addicted to likes and comments left by peers in praiseworthy way, imagine a child's brain, right? And already the child's brain is having so much of screen time. Now studies have come out that say if the child or adult is exposed to screen time between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., then there is an area of the brain called the habenula that is triggered to release neurochemicals that actually cause the person to feel disappointment. So imagine if you're doing a homework, you're a child or a teacher doing the work between 11 and 4, then you're going to have disappointment in your life because of what time you're exposing your brain to the screen. I mean, my God, I'm sure all of you have heard about things like blue light emanating from screens that can shut down endocrine functions in the neurohormonal connections. But all of this has to be studied, regulated, and optimized. There is no such thing as bad educational technology or bad digital uses. It is all about optimization and maximizing learning with the minimal exposure that is needed, right? So then, excuse me, I'm sorry. I think this call might come again.
Ma'am,
so
it's such an interesting topic.
Yes,
I personally feel there's so much to learn from you. There is so much to pick up from you. We would require another day. We would require, some more ingredients. And I personally feel that to do justice with the subject, if we work out a strategy that tomorrow, if we request you to devote half an hour more with us, that would be very, very kind of you, ma'am.
Absolutely, sir. I mean, I have infinity to learn from you. I don't think it is.
There's so much to pick up. There's so much to pick up today. We just close the presentation up to this point, and we continue further tomorrow. From this point, we further take it on. I wish to spend about a minute or two with you, ma'am, in after off the screen. If you can just close the presentation, then we can come live straight onto the Zoom. Yes, that's great. That's great. It's so meaningful, it's so powerful, and you're giving scenario how in the different countries, children, teachers, parents, everybody has gone through the challenges. But one thing, ma'am, we all are resilient. We all have come a long way. And I personally feel the humanity ultimately found the way that, look, we got to cope up with all these challenges and obstacles and difficulties and problems, but we got to find the solution. So we found the solution, whatever means were available, depending on different countries, different places. People made optimum use of those resources which were available to them. And so did our wonderful teachers in India as well.
Our teachers.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So now,
utterly committed. Our teachers, utterly committed. Yes, sir.
So now our efforts are how to prepare Indian teachers to help global humanity. That is the agenda we have got. And if you would permit, we would make a humble request to you to take on the session tomorrow also with you. I was scheduled to have a program tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock. I'll postpone that because this is next to my heart and this is something very important which we want to have. Even if I have to go for next 2 days, I would make a humble request to you. Let's do justice because ultimately our vision is how Indian teachers can go abroad, how Indian teachers can be multitasking, how they should be made positive, passionate, and pragmatic so that they can adopt and they can take on the new role, the new journey, and they can help the entire humanity. With that, ma'am, your closing remarks, and then we will close the session.
Sure. I would say that the opportunities for Indian teachers to go outside of India and teach have exponentially increased because of the pandemic. Because when there are constraints of resources, which is the environment in which our Indian teachers have been raised, in the environment in which they have delivered unbelievable value and education and knowledge and love of learning to our students, when they have worked under such tremendous constraints even before the pandemic only was the next step for them, because this was in other institutions where there is a lot of support. There may be a visual aids person who can create a slide presentation. There may be a tech aide whom you can call on the phone or on intercom who will attend the class and figure out the problems. But here the Indian teachers were figuring it all out on their own even before. And so during the pandemic, their skills expanded hugely into digital technology delivery and into the psychological support of not only their students and the parents and families, but also their fellow colleagues and other educational professionals who work with them in the school. And so these skills are actually conferring an era of golden respect and remuneration and compensation for our brilliant and genius Indian teachers who are our national treasure, India's national treasure and the world's national treasure. And this growth in their skill set and this ability to learn under extreme duress and unimaginable constraints without resources, this ability has actually become an asset, a global asset. Teachers who are trained in India to be teachers are nothing less than a global asset. Anywhere they go, they will bring results. And that is what I would like to do.
Thank you. Thank you. With these words, ladies and gentlemen, our deep gratitude to Dr. PRIYA ma'am. And we will continue with the discussion and deliberations and further take on the agenda how Indian teachers can be multitasking and being accepted globally. How do they prepare to be globally acceptable? All the challenges whichever humanity is facing today. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thanks a lot and wishing you a wonderful day ahead in America and look